Welcome to episode 26 of Two Dimensional Champions. I'm Julian,
And I'm Fatinator.
Paragon level.
400 something.
Nice,
Uh,
nice, nice. I'm only
hey
170, I
man,
think.
get on my
And we're
motherfucking level. Playing hardcore because I'm a real baller.
okay, yeah, and we're taking a break from Diablo 3 season 5 to bring you this very special podcast today. So you guys should be super appreciative that
Yeah,
we took the time out of our extraordinarily busy
we
schedules.
tried taking a break yesterday, but Diablo 3 won.
Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, yeah, that just didn't work at all. Needless to say, the new season's fun. I'm glad I'm playing hardcore too. Haven't died yet. Um, that's very exciting.
Yep.
But today we're talking about Everything Becomes F, the Perfect Insider. And this is a anime that's adapted from a 1996 novel by Hiroshi Mori.
So good.
And the television series is produced by A1 Pictures, and it already finished airing. It started airing in October, and it ran for 11 episodes. And this is a special two-part, two-dimensional champions. Where today, this episode will be covering the first 5 episodes, and then the next episode 27 will be covering the
The
final,
rest of it.
the rest of it.
So the way that this went down was like, Joan was like, hey man, you want to do the full season? And it's like, we can't really talk about past the first 5 episodes if we do the full season and our first impressions because then we'll know what happens. So we're
Yeah.
sort of trying to break it up, but it's intriguing to say the least. I was captivated.
Oh, I thought it was really
Yeah,
interesting.
it really reminded me of an excellent anime that we did earlier. Oh god, what was it? Roka and the Brave Six. Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd give it that much credit.
uh,
As much as I enjoyed the beginning of that show, I think this managed to keep the suspense of keeping all the characters in the same place, but still giving them stuff to do. Whereas Roka, although I do appreciate what it did right and some of the cool things about it, I just couldn't follow it.
but it is a whodunit sort of
It
story.
is kind of like that,
Yeah.
except
I
well,
mean, it's
yeah,
exactly a whodunit. Like it's
yeah,
kind
it's
of.
precisely who done
Uh,
it.
but it's,
And so, just a couple of notes of the series before. It was interesting looking up Hiroshi Mori, the writer. Apparently, he was since he was a kid, he's been an avid model craftsman, and he loves building model planes and flying them and stuff like that. And he confessed in an interview that one of the reasons for becoming a novelist was that he wanted to make more money to extend his miniature garden railway.
okay.
So that's it's an interesting note.
So wait, so
He's
he
also
became an author in order to get money to provide for a different hobby. I don't think that's normally. Usually, I don't think people go into being an author thinking like, "This is where I'm going to make some dollars."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's actually done manga as well. I think it looks like he's self-published some stuff under a pen name. And
Is it also the perfect like? Do you do the Perfect Insider as a manga?
no, actually, I don't know. It doesn't say here. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia. It was just an interesting couple of notes. And apparently, he was a big fan of the works of Moto Hagio, who's she's one of the legendary shoujo manga artists in terms of like kind of what
And
she brought to the genre
shoujo is which genre again? What's it targeted towards?
towards girls,
Hmm.
and so stereotypically you've got like the big eyes and the very big eyes and stuff
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
okay.
But Hagio's stories, a lot of them were science fiction, and I've read actually a few of them, the few that have been published in English, and they're the way she handles drama uh, is it's really amazing how she pulls you into the story. And so he was inspired by her to write, and he has a doctorate of engineering, and so it seems like his day job is a researcher. Before he resigned that post to become a professional writer. But so that's why his Everything Becomes F has a very scientific tinge to it. It's because he refers to his writings as science mysteries.
I believe that.
Yep, so that's very much apparent. And then just a couple of other details. The director of the series is Mamoru Kanbe, and he was the director of Elfenlied, which is one that doesn't come up too often anymore, but was really big back when we were in college,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, well,
Uh,
I mean, it's still like I would consider it a classic. Like, I think the way that it did sort of like what would you call it, like a horror romance, you know,
yeah.
like it
Hmm.
was I thought it was excellent, excellently
Oh
done.
yeah, very very well animated
Yeah,
too. And
great
interestingly,
music. The music in that
oh,
was amazing.
yeah, that was one of those classic openings of all time.
Hmm.
That was great. And the character designs for the Perfect Insider are actually done by Inio Asano, who is a manga artist who's very well known. His newest, or one of his more recent series, entitled "A Girl on the Shore," just got published this week by Vertical. So, if you like his
Like
character
the first
design,
chapter.
the whole book,
Oh,
it's
okay.
a single volume series, I
Yeah,
think, and so you can pick that up off Amazon and all that. And he's well known for doing. Actually, a bunch of his series are available in English. Nijikahara, Holograph, Solonin, and What a Wonderful World. And the bit of stuff I've read from him, he does an interesting job with combining um, daily life, kind of the eccentricities of daily life, with some horror elements. He's got a very singular voice, which I guess is an overused term, but he's a really cool author, and I'm hopefully going to be reading A Girl on the Shore pretty soon, because I knew that was really popular on the Scanlation side of things. That was a big series, but I never read it online, so I'm going to pick up the book from Vertical, so you can find it there. And then going back to The Perfect Insider, so basically we've got an interesting staff, we've got an interesting book that it's based on, and the series itself is licensed by Sentai Filmworks, so it's going to be available here in the States on Blu-ray probably sometime this year. And we watched the show on Crunchyroll.
yep.
Yep. So, without further ado, shall we get into like the general how we felt about it, and then episode by episode?
Yeah. So I mean, like non-spoilerly, I would say it's I feel like the anime does a really good job of making the characters interesting by showing like very sort of cute little like mannerisms and stuff like that you can relate to for different sort of characters, and I don't know, it's just it's really interesting. It really sort of brings you in, and it's kind of trippy. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Without giving too much away, I think that it is just really a really solid story. I would recommend it.
Yeah, what's nice is if you're concerned about spoilers, I mean, there will be some for the first five, but
We have no
we
idea what the
literally
fuck is going on.
we have no idea what's going to happen. We haven't read it on Wikipedia. We haven't watched the whole show at this point. So a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about in this episode is pure speculation
Right.
on our part of what could occur. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I watched all five episodes in a row and just kind of burnt through it. And this was kind of part of our sort of blitz from last week, where we essentially were picking shows aside from Lupin. Well, I guess Blackjack I knew about to a certain extent, but like Utaware Mono, I knew nothing about that going into it, and likewise Perfect Insider, I had no idea what it was about.
I'm so happy
Yeah,
that like 'cause, I mean I feel like a lot of the anime that sort of when you watch a lot of anime that just isn't quite good or captivating, you know, like I sort of think like, oh, am I getting too old for this? You know, like
yeah,
am I growing out of this thing that I've always been passionate about and loved, and then I like find just a little gem and I'm like, oh no, I have not. Like this
yeah,
is fun. So
yeah. Every once in a while you get a show like this, and it's I mean from animation to the writing to the music, this is a
it's like
very
the philosophy stuff, and like they're really edgy and like a lot of stuff. You know, it's
yeah.
definitely not intended for children. That's something that I would say.
Definitely not. And what's nice is it's not just violence. It's what they're discussing, the
Yeah,
themes of the story, and there's some stuff we'll get into that I was very shocked
yeah,
to see, even kind of referred to, and after watching anime for as long as we have,
It's hard to be shocked about
that's
that.
yeah, it's hard to really kind of sit back and be like and really have a
When you
holy
go into
shit
an anime, you're
response.
like, oh well, of course he has tentacles. Like that's one of those things where you
Yeah,
watch like a lot of anime,
it's like of course he's the chosen beast monster
right?
god
Right.
thing. Yeah,
You can tell
or
because of his eye patch.
yeah, that's where he hides all of his power.
Hmm.
But the Perfect Insider is one of the most recent in a long line of shows brought to us by the Noitamina animation block, which is animation spelled backwards, and I've had a hard time pronouncing it in the order that the broadcasting block calls itself since it started in spring 2005. And Noitama, real quick, is I really enjoyed it because they've just brought a lot of interesting shows. I don't think they've ever really had a series that's they've had sequels and stuff, but they've never really had one go much beyond 22 episodes or so. And the time slot that Noitama has, the group of shows, it's done Honey and Clover, Paradise Kiss, um, Eden of the East, House of Five Leaves, Tatami Galaxy, Guilty Crown, Black Rock Shooter, Psychopath, Silver Spoon,
Really like Psychopaths.
yeah, Ping Pong. I mean, they. What's
Ping
really interesting
pong.
about yeah, that was actually an interesting
Wait, no,
show.
wait, like just like throw that Psychopaths and ping pong. Oh.
And Ping Pong, yeah, and Bunny Drop. And I don't know if you ever watched Anohana, the flower we saw that day. Did you ever see
No.
that? No, that was a killer fucking show. So
Maybe we'll
anyway,
do it sometime.
yeah. So what's interesting about the block is Perfect Insider is really like it's a great fit for the block because they've chosen to adapt stuff either from previous mangas or in this case a novel that really is for adults, and I don't even know if it would ever get adapted as well as it did without this the Nonheimal block of producers
Now, when you
bringing
say
it.
block, do you mean like the time block in which they're showing the stuff on
Yeah,
television, or do you just mean like their batch of anime that they're producing essentially?
yeah, I think it's a group of producers. I mean, someone who knows more about that could probably give more information, but it's a time block that's been around since spring 2005. And the ad set was to just bring shows that were a little different to the anime sphere.
Okay.
And
Do you
they've
know
really
do you know
kept
what time they air?
uh, Thursday nights pretty late. It looks like midnight, around midnight or
Okay, yeah,
so.
I would assume that it had to be like midnight or
Yeah.
what. It's almost like a like when you stay up late to watch like the naughty whatever,
Mhm.
risque movies on HBO or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it
who does
was
that? But
yeah, yeah. Who does that? Yeah. But what's interesting about it is, it's rare to get projects which are, it's a time slot launched with the intention of expanding the target audience beyond, the typical, young boys who watch most of anime. So they've really experimented with a lot. And one of the staples that they have is excellent opening and ending sequences. And
it's interesting to have as a staple. I mean, it applies. I really enjoyed the opening and
yeah,
ending. That was
I don't know what keeps it so consistent because they all sorts of different anime studios contribute to the programs that they broadcast, but that's one of the things they've always had is really interesting. And even if you don't personally like them, I feel like they're always inventive. So Perfect Insider's opening just right off the bat is fucking awesome.
it's
So
so trippy. Like I remember the note that it was like I really like the intro. It's weird and trippy. And I have no idea what's going on. Like that was like the note that I made watching that intro.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
and it's got the three main characters all kind of playing off of each other and dancing.
Yeah,
Uh,
but um, the the doctor, the Shiki Doctor Magata, um, she like will like dissipate and then reappear, or like sort of like will lose her form and then regain her form and stuff like that. And I thought that was
mm,
kind of a neat sort of thing
yeah,
in the intro.
that's really interesting.
So she seems very elusive.
Yeah, yeah, and she's got that.
Which is an
trend in
example
the
of the
series. Yeah.
paranoia that you get when you're watching this because you have no idea what's going on, so you try to find little hints and clues everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and you really look for everything. Like what's possibly going on here, and I really, we'll get into it a little later, but I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't.
I have no idea what's going to
Uh,
happen.
yeah, but I guess now we'll be get into the
Yeah,
episodes,
so
and
we'll
so if
start
you have,
breaking into the spoilers within the first 5 episodes. We recommend it essentially if
yeah,
you're 17 and up, and like sort of mystery, good quality character animation, just a good story. I would recommend it.
for sure. Yeah, I'd say this definitely gets 2 thumbs up,
Yeah,
and go find it, go watch it, and go watch it all at once.
right. And then tune in
uh,
with us tomorrow or
yeah,
later tonight or
yeah,
whenever we were done. Yes.
exactly. Yeah. So here we go. First episode.
So the first episode is called White Meeting,
Hmm.
which almost all of the episodes seem to be associated with a color, which of course with paranoia we think that that means something, but I have no idea what.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my argument too.
Right,
It's like it means something. I know it. I feel it. I just have no idea
right. White. What do those whites
what it
mean?
could be.
Um,
And we open with a interesting sequence that I really enjoyed. This first scene really. I mean, the opening was excellent, but this first scene really got me right into it. Not only just because they play a piece of music that's one of the staple, for me, Evangelion pieces of music, which you found, which is
oh, is that the John
that the
Sebastian Bach cello suite suit whatever number 1 prelude in G major? I have no idea what
yep.
that means. That's the
And so
song.
they played it at the opening of the Evangelion Death recap movie. So for me, it's just one of those poor pieces of classical music that it's just forever entrenched with that. So of course, when they played it at the start of this, my ears immediately perked up.
Right.
And not just that, but we get a really interesting sequence with the ship. That's right, the ship within the desert.
I don't remember. That part didn't particularly stand out to me.
I
But
thought it was cool, but strangely, I didn't have a note about it other than like that classical piece. And I was like, thanks, old me, for taking detailed notes on that, on that opening.
it's
especially,
exactly how it's.
especially now with hindsight being like everything's important.
Exactly. It's like,
Like,
shut up.
well,
But it's also a really hard anime to take notes on because there's a lot of things like jumping back and forth, and like you'll get like a snippet of a conversation here, and then you'll get the rest of the conversation later.
yeah.
Um, but I
But in
did hear
general,
that like the something about like the notes in classical, and I don't know if this is actually proven or not, but are promote like good brain thought, make you
good brain,
smart or
good
whatever.
brain thought. Oh,
I don't know.
it didn't work on
It
me.
makes you think good, you know?
Makes me a good brain thought I have, or I try to. Yeah, well, I've heard that too. Don't they do that for like babies and
Mhm.
stuff? That like they. Oh yeah, that's right. I always thought that was kind of weird,
Yeah, trying to get
but
that. Yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah. But so we're immediately introduced to Moe Nishisono,
Hmm.
who's the. Uh,
Sort of
I'd
like,
actually argue the main character.
yeah. Well, I would consider both her and Sohei Saikawa, uh,
Saikawa?
as the two main characters. That
Hmm.
they're sort of like partners in this whole endeavor. Um, so of course one of them are maybe the murderer, maybe not the murderer, whatever.
But in general, they usually bring two sides of the discussion. And they're nice foils to each other.
Yeah, and they've got such great like sort of mannerisms and stuff. They just seem like people, you know.
They do, yeah. They actually do seem like
And
people.
I
Yeah,
feel like it's hard like uh Nishino Sono like she's sort of like a relatable normal character, but with Saikawa, um he's like one of those like smart characters, but
yeah,
like it's really easy to when you're developing like someone who's really smart. It's like, oh, he knows everything, so no one can really relate to him. But it's like he's still relatable to me, you know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Because I feel like he kind of represents that very analytical side of a persona.
And almost like a
Um,
neurosis, like how he's always like smoking and always like it's almost like he's smart, but he's like super like I don't know,
it's a
compulsive
one,
or whatever.
yeah, it's a one track mind. He's you look at him and you don't really think he's thinking anything different except the same 30 or 40 things, just in kind of a continuous line. That's the feeling I got,
Hmm.
is that he's obsessed with the work that he's doing. Everything usually comes back to Shiki. He's obviously got an obsession with her.
Hmm.
That's one of these lines, but he doesn't really push himself in other areas. Like he's obviously aware of emotions, but it's interesting how he chooses to play on them.
Yeah.
That was one thing I found interesting about him. And so Nishi Sono is definitely more relatable in that she has a more varied range of emotions, but at the same time, she's got an interesting background because she comes from her family is the
Was it her? Either her mother or father was like the teacher of Saikawa.
like the head of the school or something,
Right,
right? And
and then Saikawa was like their last like student or something like that. Super smart, lots of money, has a butler, like whatever. But
yeah,
also like even though she doesn't really portray herself that way, I also think she's like hella smart too.
yeah, she's very smart
Yeah.
too, and so you can tell that Sohei doesn't just hang out with her because he obviously feels somewhat indebted to kind of take care of her because he was the last student of her father's, but also at the same time, he makes it clear that it's not just that. I mean, he does obviously respect her intelligence and perhaps may have some emotional attachment to her. It's kind of hard to say if it's just
If it's
kind
one
of like
sided or not, she definitely likes him. I mean, there's not even
yeah,
like there's like she has a meeting with Dr. Magata, which is the long black haired woman, and she's like, "Do you like him?" And she's like, "Yes." and then
yeah,
and then later finds out like, and that message was portrayed to everybody. She's like, "Oh shit."
yeah. It's like, oh no. And so for him, it's hard to say whether he looks at her as just as a daughter, and then to her, Nishisona, it's interesting if her parents have died. So it's I found myself kind of reflecting on, is it just sort of like a kind of like a father complex sort of thing, or is she actually you know in love with him? You know what I mean? Like what? How close are those two threads
Right.
intertwined?
Is it an attempt to like maybe her dad was really obsessed with his work or something like that, and then so she was trying to get to her father through him. I don't know, and I'm not even really sure whether they died on like a plane crash or something like that. Was that?
Yeah, we haven't really by episode 5. We don't know. I feel like we're really close to finding
Yeah.
out.
When like when her the death was brought up, she said that she was alone. I think it showed her in an airport when she found out, but I'm not exactly sure how
Yeah.
they died.
Yeah,
Um,
all we know is that I guess it was an accident. It was on the same day. So
yeah.
that's
Do you know what my favorite line in episode one was?
absolutely, yeah.
Do you remember when he was talking about the meeting that he went to? And then the girl, she was like, he was complaining about how it was long. She's like, is it because the people in the meeting were dumb? And he said, no, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he said, um, the people were actually smart, and the reason it took a long time was that they kept talking to prove that they weren't stupid.
Yeah, that was a very cool
and
line.
and that's so common. Like I've been in many meetings like that and stuff where everyone feels like they need to say something even if they're all sort of saying the same thing, but it's just like, yes, I second that, or, oh well, you forgot this small little whatever thing and I want to point that out to prove my own intellectual
Yeah,
prowess or what.
posturing and positioning,
Hmm.
and yeah, that was a really cool line. I also liked another line that I enjoyed, and this is a paraphrase, of course, too. That every human starts as a genius, but they get stupid so that they can do work, so that they can make small talk.
Right.
Uh, I thought that was it was just that line and the line you brought up were just they really make you sit back and you're like, oh, okay, this is a different show.
Right.
This is
And like whether or not it's true, I mean, I don't know. I've tried to have a conversation with children before, and they're not exactly
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the. Yeah.
Like, there's no way the water from this container will fit into that container. Was that magic? I'm like, not sure if you're a genius, but
But one way of perhaps interpreting the line is that children have that curiosity
yes,
that's kind of uninhibited, whereas as adults we're kind of told like again like what you're saying with the posturing and positioning and people trying to make sure other people know that they know it's not a very popular choice to be like, oh, I don't know,
I think
let's
that
find out.
I think I was in a psychology class and they said there's almost like a creativity like bell chart or reverse bell chart so it said that like children are ever start off as being like super creative, and then like when they reach their 25s 30s it drops off, and then when they reach their like 60s 70s etc it spikes up again, and they say that the
Hmm.
reason it spikes up again is because the children that they had have grandchildren, and a lot of times the grandparents are playing with the grandchildren, so then their creativity then is reignited.
Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, yeah, that mental elasticity comes back because they're engaging in actions that challenge it. Trying to explain something in a simpler way, or something. You know what I mean? Trying to bring
Right.
stuff down
Trying
and
to speak
reinterpret it.
baby.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, like when a kid says something to you that makes you think differently about how you interpret it, it's
Right.
like, oh, okay, like that's a weird way, and that just comes from not necessarily meaning that they're a genius, but just they're learning it. So they're like, well, what about this way? What about that?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's an interesting point. So Nishisono has a really, really, fancy place. She's got a really nice car, and her poor butler seems like he puts up with a lot.
Right.
And so she heads over to the college, and we're introduced to Sohei there and his intense smoking habit,
Yeah, he smokes
which
a
is
lot.
it's always kind of funny to me to see characters who smoke that much in anime and stuff like that, because just the way smoking's treated now in the states, you just I feel like there's sort of like we're not supposed to show that it's cool or anything. We're not supposed to show someone who usually the people who smoke a lot are bad now or something like that. They're kind of
Because it's
rebellious
an
or something.
unhealthy thing. Uh, I,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go really as far as saying that it seemed like cool when he was doing it. I think that it was more to portray like the obsessive or compulsive sort of like behavior that he has when it comes to his work and stuff. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
But
yeah, it is.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's just cool to see a modern character, at least from watching after watching American TV. It's just fun to
That's
see.
true. I mean, but like, I feel like a lot of times characters smoke in anime. Like, didn't like Lupin? Wasn't there a lot of smoking in Lupin as well?
Yeah, I think it's still much more prominent in Japan than it is here,
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, so that was interesting. And my first note on him is, oh, it's a philosophy dude. So no
Right.
wonder he looks unhealthy and has a smoking habit.
Right.
Uh, and he had an interesting line as of people as software, which I thought was kind of cool. And again, you have these ideas that get thrown out that at first I feel like it kind of toes a line where it you have some stories that will throw out interesting ideas and never really do anything with them, just to like drop theories on the audience to make themselves seem smart,
Hmm.
And this show, that was my first concern in the first episode, was like, okay, this is a lot of interesting stuff, but are they actually going to build on any of this? And looking back on it, I do feel like it's all kind of important to piecing together what this guy's mind's like and Nishisono's interaction with him, because she's obviously smart enough to keep up, but she's more interested in she wants him to take her on a date and
Right.
stuff.
Like, yeah,
Uh,
she's still, like she's really smart, but she's still like a young girl with a crush or whatever. And I sort of thought that it was interesting how forward she was.
very,
I
yeah.
forgot what it was that they like betted on, but she was like, if I think it was if she can get him a meeting with Dr.
What?
Magata, was that what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was?
I
Then
think that's what it
he'd
was.
have to take her on a date or or something. I don't remember what it was, but she was like, "Hey, this happens. You take me on a date or whatever."
Hmm. Yeah, she's very forward, and it seems like the other teachers and students are, kind of aware of whatever's going on. And what I also thought was interesting was the visitation of the other woman who stops by while Sohei's out, and she talks to Nishisono and asks her to give him this package of treats, essentially. And
Right. He sort of seemed like she was someone uh, like a girlfriend or esque character.
and it was an interesting interaction because he complains that the some of the food items that came, he would never eat it. Like it was just not a
Right.
you know, and so it just
Was
kind
that
of.
when you find out that he hates watermelon?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. So the guy that kind of showed that there's a relationship there, but she obviously doesn't either pay attention to these traits of him
Or
or
he's just like mocking him. I'm trying to
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So it's interesting. I liked how you could either interpret that as she's in a couple of different ways. Like either this lady is just out to get him for his notoriety because he's seen as sort of like the what is it, the golden hope of academia or something,
All right.
or she's actually really smart, like you said, and is mocking him. And I just anyway, the whole show is. That's just a microcosm of what the show is, which is it really presents these situations where you can even think about these small interactions and be like, well, it could mean that.
Yeah, maybe this is this, or maybe that is that.
Yeah,
I mean, what was it? They were talking about like a coworker or whatever, like another doctor doing something, and just like she's just like the anti, like everyone's like afraid of her, or she's always
yeah,
mad or pissy, and then like you meet her later, uh, which is interesting. But also, there's gonna be some blend through when we talk about episodes because all the episodes really blend together well.
yeah,
But like that character later, like you see a great personality, and then like they go off, and you don't see them for like the next 3 episodes, or anyone on that they went to the island with, which we'll
yeah.
get to.
Mhm.
So,
And so the bulk of the first episode is split between their time in the city, introducing Sohei and Nishisono, to Nishisono's meeting with Magata.
hmm
And I thought the way they handled it was interesting. I mean, a little confused, but I was able to keep track of it, and so that's a compliment to the editing and to the layout of the episode because it really, it's only a 23-minute program,
what
so.
happened was they would show you just enough of what you've already seen, so you remember the conversation, and then they would continue from there.
Yeah, and what was cool is you got no shots of the island. You got no shots of how she got there, who she talked to get into the
That's
room,
true.
where really she was. I thought it was really cool how she was. You needed to know that she talked to Magata really face to face, and
Yeah.
that this conversation would be kind of like the constant reference point for the
And
rest of
it
the series.
was rare. Like she
Very
doesn't
rare.
talk to people. She
Yeah,
doesn't people. Like
yeah, and a worker at the facility even states that he had never talked to her about anything non-work related, and he had been working there for like 15 years or something. And so that she was so open to Nishisono was really interesting. I just really like that they managed to portray it without dramatizing how she got there in any way. I like that. It was
yeah.
very clean
Or
and
mysterious.
or mysterious.
Ooh.
Yes, yeah. But Nishisono, was it her aunt or something, is the mayor of the prefecture, so she's able to get this access
Mhm.
that nobody else really can get, and she uses it to, of course, get that date with Sohei.
Right.
And again, Nishizono is interesting because she would, when describing her, it's easy to like, if you haven't seen the show, I guess it would be easy to assume that she's like a very one-dimensional character, but I don't know, with her little quirks, her personality quirks, and her movements, she's obvious, and the way she converses with Magata, she's obviously, at least just as smart as Sohei.
Was she doing like crazy math out of the top of her head or something like that? Was that right?
Yeah, so I have a note that just says "fuck math." So
So that
yeah,
must have been what it was.
yeah, yeah. There's a big math. Yeah, he asks her something, and well, the note is "fuck math." So I mean,
Yeah,
that.
and I remember they were doing like Dr. Magata. She was like talking about all of the like multiplications between like one or whatever and 10 talking about how 7 was the loneliest number because
Right.
of like
Yeah. Right.
being divisible of what I mean. I don't know. It's hard to fuck math.
Yeah. Yeah. So the main takeaway from that was seven is the loneliest number, and I don't know how they got to
What
that
does
because
that
they.
mean? It's somehow related to the killer. I'm sure.
Yeah, and Magata explains it, and I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna, just went right over my head.
Right.
But about here is when we discover. I think we discover here is Magata killed her parents, and so this is why she's locked away on this island. And so Nishisono
Oh,
asks her,
is she locked away on the island?
yeah, that was the impression I got. Is that was her punishment? Like she was so smart that they couldn't really just cut her off completely and throw her into a normal jail because she's just fucking brilliant. And it seemed to me that like corporations still wanted work from her. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that she was imprisoned.
really? Oh, that was the impression I got was that this whole facility was like a containment for her, but also a lab for people to work on the project she was still allowed to work on.
Yeah, my impression was that it was that she was suspected of killing her parents, but I don't know if she was convicted of killing her
Oh
parents.
yeah, but
Uh,
she
but that's like of the rumor mill, and then she like got this island as her workplace in order to isolate herself from everyone and everything else, and so just so she can devote herself to work was my impression.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're not very clear about that. So, yeah, I could definitely be wrong. So Nishisono asks her straight up if she killed her parents, and Magato's response is interesting.
Didn't she say like a
Mm,
doll did it or something like that?
yeah, Doll did it, and she watched.
Yeah.
Uh, which, yeah, which means a lot when you finished episode five.
Right.
Yeah, which we'll get to when we get to that point. But
I mean, and that I think that's pretty much the end of episode 1. So then we're brought into episode 2, right?
uh,
Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
yeah, so they have the meeting at the little discussion so part of it is they're trying to decide what to do with was it the summer trip or the seminar
Oh,
or
right,
something like
right,
that. And so Nishisono essentially just decides that we're going to the island for the seminar,
right,
and she kind of uses as a lure for Sohei to kind of hang out with her and such.
but then she's like, I mean, I'll go talk with her, but fuck you, you can't come. We'll just know that I'm like talking to this person you idolize. Neener, neener,
Yeah,
neener.
yeah. And here you can really see Nishisono is really playing this card to. She's obviously frustrated. She's not getting the responses she wants from Sohei, so she's playing this on him to
Right.
get something out of him.
It's something like this is another thing. Just I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but like whenever she drinks any sort of like hot liquid, she always just like tries to it's like, oh, it's too hot, and then like tries to again, it's like, oh, it's too hot, and I just think that's like so cute, Like I feel like that little thing just adds so much character to or so
It
much
is, yeah.
personality to the character.
It gives her vitality.
Yeah,
I mean, just like Sohei's cigarettes in his own way give him that tactility. You know what I
right.
mean? So yeah, so that's cool. And so at this point, my last note for episode one was that I have no idea what it's about, but it seems interesting, well directed, and animated.
Yeah, the animation again, you can't say it enough. It's just
Oh,
so good. Um,
fucking A1 Pictures knocked this out of the park.
one
And then we see the. Oh,
Oh,
go
it's
ahead.
just one more note that I have is that one thing that I thought was really interesting between Nishino Sono and the doctor was that the whole conversation seemed like it was full of misdirection, like they were trying to get information out of the other person without necessarily revealing anything about themselves. Like Nishisono would like ask a question, and then the doctor like would sort of answer but not really answer, and then she would ask Ichizono a question, and then she would answer, and the other person was like, "That's not a real answer. Like what are you really trying to say?" So it was
Yeah.
very like lots of layers.
Hmm. Oh yeah. And so then we get into the ending theme. I know you found something out cool
Well,
about that.
I didn't. necessarily find it. I just saw it on Crunchyroll, which was that in the ending sequence, there's a thing. It's called like I think Game of Life.
Yeah, Conway's Game of Life.
Yeah, and which is a sort of mathematic algorithm or whatever of creating systems where blocks either grow or die or stay the same based on their connection to other stuff. So they're saying like in this situation it's overpopulation, in this it's like they're not able to get enough. I don't know, like nutritions or whatever, and this is like it's really
Yeah, it's like a game of evolution, and you put in certain algorithms to like see if how far they'll go.
right. And so
Uh,
that there's some that'll like they sort of will just create these sort of weird patterns and then like die off or and then build into something else or then explode or whatever. It's crazy, and in the ending sequence you see sort of things like the Game of Life, and it's like drawing a picture of uh of the doctor's like face or something like that as it sort of like morphs and changes, and it's just really bizarre. But
yeah, it's a really really cool ending sequence,
yeah,
and it really brings you even more, into that, all the layers of the show and all that, and I feel like it gives some hint as to what the final outcome could be, but
who the fuck knows?
who the fuck knows? Yeah. So episode two.
Yeah, called Azure Encounter. So it's
Mm.
blue.
Yep. And so we start with them departing on their vacation. Not a vacation. What is this thing that they're going on? It's like a summer
Yeah,
trip or something.
like a retreat or whatever. I
Yeah,
think
and
that's
it's
the
the
word
whole
that they
class.
used.
Yeah, the whole class is going, and Sohei is the teacher in charge of it, and so Nishizono shows up with her her car with her in it, and then the car of luggage,
Right,
and that I thought was pretty funny.
right. With her butler, and she also brought watermelon for dessert.
Yeah, and like an ice cream machine or something. What was it? Did
I
she
don't
have
know,
something
but
complicated?
the
Yeah,
guy hates watermelon, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that was funny.
She's just screwing with him at this
Yeah,
point. Yeah. Um, and one cool thing is her butler gets a little bit of development where he's talking with Sohei by themselves, and he asks Sohei to take care of her, and he like that he trusts him with her
right.
and all that. And so it seems clear that they've had a relationship and they know each other. And I just thought it was a nice touch, where it's not just that she likes him and so she's hanging out all the time. It really does seem like there is it really cemented the family connection, as in the butler has obviously known Sohei for a long time.
Hmm.
Probably when Nishisono's father was teaching him, I'm sure. So it was just a nice scene, and it kind of also displayed Sohei's sort of fatherly responsibilities to Nishisono in a way. So I think gives more credence to that argument of he's kind of just taking care of her basically,
Right.
because she's obviously very high maintenance. So uh, the other students don't really know what to do with her. It seems.
Yeah.
Uh, and their interactions with her are interesting. We have that one girl who's always
Like, what is this? Then there's the guy that's always like, whatever. I'll tell you later.
yeah. She's like, he's like, oh, I'll describe it to you later.
Right.
And so then we head towards the island, and we're told that the boat actually doesn't go regularly to the island.
Hmm.
That
It sort of like goes off on like the route to it.
Yeah, so if there's it has to be specially requested. It seems that automatically was a red flag for me. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's gonna be trouble. Mm.
Oh, as in like now they're stranded.
Yeah, yeah, as in classic horror.
Right. This is the island of death. Once you get
Yes,
on, you can never get off.
yeah, yeah, and there's no cell phones, so that doesn't work.
Right.
So that was
No
another. There's no
signal. They have
internet.
their own in-house system in order to do everything that you know that the doctor
Hmm.
is in control of.
Yeah, so that was, automatically that was a that's a major red flag. And then we've got an interesting. They switched to the meeting between Magata and Nishisono again,
Hmm.
and they conversed about how meeting someone in the real world will become a luxury in the future, like jewelry, basically.
I don't remember that
That
scene.
Yeah, that was a really cool. Another one of those lines that stood out.
Right.
Um, and it basically referring to how Nishisono met, was talking to Magata through like a Skype kind of thing. So I thought, another one of these ideas that gets thrown out there that's like, yeah, okay, that's a food for thought, I guess.
Right. I mean, and
uh,
I do think that sort of illustrates like I don't know. I like called my friend and talked, and he's like, I was like, that is like you're one of the only people that I know that still calls people instead of just texting. And I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm gangsta like that. And I also think it's just a way better way of communicating with.
yeah, and I think it's an interesting point because there's so many, with just texting, you miss so much of the subtlety of conversation,
Right, and
right?
then
And
some like sarcasm or joking or whatever. Like I feel like I get into way more fights talking through via text than I do actually just communicating with people.
yeah, it's too easy to have personal projection
Hmm.
on just text. Whereas also, of course, what they're saying here in the show too is that the video chat is a step down from actually interacting with someone in a sense,
Yeah,
because then you get all those physical cues, you get all the stuff that you're kind of unconsciously looking at, facial expressions. Well, I mean, you can have that through video, but it's different.
I mean video. Well, I would say video is better than just through voice, but it's
Oh,
still, of
I
course, you can't be like ha ha ha, right, and like pat someone on the back or whatever. You
yeah, I
can't
agree.
engage
Yeah,
with them physically.
which is why maybe one day we'll have a YouTube video for this show.
So it's interesting that they did Psychopaths, this sort of like company or whatever, as a block, because when I was
Mhm.
watching it, the doctor and stuff like that, like the way that she was talking and thinking, she really like reminded me of like, ooh, spoiler for Psychopaths, or whatever, that she was sort of like an AI like program thought computer system set up like that was in Psychopaths.
Oh, the main girl was.
The doctor, Dr. Magata. She sort of like made me think of that. Like in this episode, I started to become suspicious as to whether or not she was real.
But like the main girl from Psychopaths was an AI.
No,
Oh,
did you watch
okay.
Psychopaths?
I've seen everything but the last episode.
What? Wait, the last episode of the first
So,
season or the last episode of the second season?
first
Okay,
season,
I
yeah.
haven't watched the second season, so I don't know.
I was about to be like, what? She was the computer.
It's like, I don't
But
even know. But yeah, like
but yeah, you bring up a good point. She does act very much like an AI or something.
yeah, like
She's got a very mechanical mind. Also, in the sense with the personalities that we'll get into later,
right.
and the point on people being like software from the first episode, it does kind of that's again you have all these clues of what something could be, but yeah, it does make a tantalizing case for that she is some sort of artificial intelligence kind of thing.
And you know what? When you're working with like a super intelligent computer programmer person, it's like I would not trust anything that they touch with a computer. Like if you're communicating through a computer, I would not trust any of that. I would not trust. Like
Yeah, because everything they're showing you, everything they're choosing to show you is potentially suspect
right, we
because
can be manipulated if they like are super if they know how to manipulate that in a way that you
oh yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a very interesting point.
Another thing that like super stood out to me was when you first saw the doctor at a younger age in a flashback when she was 13 years old, and it seemed like she was trying to seduce her uncle.
Oh, that's right. That's where that started. Okay, yeah, yeah. I had this note, and I was like, "Wait, did they start that this
Yeah,
episode?" Yeah, yeah, they
I
did.
think it was just like the hands on her, like, oh, like, what did you tell your wife? And it's like, oh, well, then I'm doing something, else or whatever. And then like the hand on his hand while driving or something like that. It just sort of like seemed.
Yeah, and she wanted to see like the ocean at night and like the caves, and she wanted to go to all these places, which was kind of mirroring Nishisono's desire to see all this stuff at night with Sohei.
Mhm.
And so it gave it even more of a charged atmosphere than it already had, because her uncle's obviously having problems with his wife. So it seemed like his wife knew something was going on, and she just didn't know who it was with, or something like that. That was
Or just that I don't know. But it was there was suspect things were it was strange.
Yeah, and the kind of takeaway I got was that, and I think they say something to this effect too, which is that Magata was just it was like she had already seen all life had to offer by the time she was 13 or something like that. She was
Just because
just
she was
so
like always asking questions about
yeah.
like even like philosophy stuff, like God, religion. Like that was my impression. At least I don't really remember.
Yeah, because there's an earlier scene, right, where she's dropped off at her uncle's, and he picks her up and all that, and she asks him about like what happens when she dies or when somebody dies,
Hmm.
and she gets so she's just very inquisitive, like just to an incredible degree, so much so that she's manipulating other intelligent adults, because the uncle is clearly, he's totally under her
Influence, I guess.
manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a scene where I was like, okay, that's that's an interesting. I was just surprised. I was like, holy shit. Okay, that's a turn.
Right.
And then this episode is kind of bulky because we get everybody on the island. We have the kind of the students enjoying themselves and all that. The awkwardness that no Sona is like really really pampered. So she doesn't know, what was it, sukiyaki or something like that. She
Right.
just, who made this sauce? And it's like, oh, it's just from the store. So it really highlighted her kind of princess like quality.
Right.
And Sohei is just staying away from the group, and so she goes over and bugs him. And from
Those
there,
scenes though, they didn't. Did anything about that like stand out to you as being relevant? Because like even though that happened, it didn't seem like
I mean,
impactful to me.
I think it just cemented Nishisona's personality,
Hmm.
and how she kind of sets up the situation where she's gonna tantalize him with bringing him close to Magata, but that it's she's in control of it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she'll say she has a headache or something like that. You know what I mean? Just it seemed to me it was just kind of enforcing how she brought them to the island. It was her choice. You know what I mean? It
Okay.
seemed like she. I don't know. That's just how kind of I saw it. I mean, that could be thinking too much into it, but
Well, that's what this show sort of does too.
yeah, yeah. But regardless, this is the last time we see the students.
Right. So then it breaks off, and then next they're in a lab, and I think the episode like what stands. So they go in a lab. Say, oh, I have a headache. That stuff doesn't really. It's whatever. But like at the end of the episode, was when you see the doctor come out, and what looks like she's on a cart when she like exits the room.
Hmm.
And I think that's just sort of like when I don't even know if they necessarily said that she was dead, but you find out like at the beginning of episode 3 that she was dead or something like.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we get introduced to Deborah, the subsystem. We also get the director of the facility
Mm-hmm.
just flew away to pick up Magata's younger sister.
Right.
Um, and so we get introduced to the cart that brings the beer around. That it's a motorized by itself, controlled by the computer system. So we get a whole bunch of stuff all at once.
Yeah.
It's like it's a little bit of an info dump in a good way. And then, of course, yeah, we have the scene you talked about, which my note for that was it's when the doors were opening and stuff. It's like it's Akira. So
Awesome.
that was the joke that I flung out there by myself. So yeah, so the cliffhanger is that she rolls out on this the beer cart
Yeah.
and a
Or
wedding
just like
cake.
the cart they call it like P1, like it delivered like medicine and other sort of
Yeah,
things.
and so the interesting thing here is that now that I think about it, the cart was already in there then. So do they have multiple ones, or was it just? I mean, I guess they do.
But they said that it was specific. Like they said, the cards have different names. They said that one was P1, which is the same one that gave them the medicine earlier. So that means it was outside of there and then it went inside.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that shit. That's fucked up. How did it
What
get
does it
in there?
mean?
Yeah. What? Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So this scene is the big scene, right? This is like the explosion that the rest of the episodes all are dealing with.
Yeah.
Wow, that was fucked up. I thought it was the same one, but for some reason I didn't have a note about it. I just thought like it was a different one. But oh shit, it was the same cart. That's fucking creepy as
Well,
fuck.
or all of the carts are called P1, but I think since there's like P1, I would assume there's also a P2, P3, etc. So I
Yeah,
mean, again, I'm not positive, but that's who
yeah.
knows.
So yeah, that's oh wow, that's creepy. So the only issue I had with this episode, real quick, was I know Nishi has already been to the facility to talk with Magata,
Right.
but I also felt like they were like sharing a fuck ton of information with her and Sohei, which was a lot for them just walking in.
Classified. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I don't really have a headache. I mean, I have a headache. Oh, this tea's hot.
Yeah, I felt like that was the only time where I was like, I don't like. I know that the director's away. You know what I mean? They've got a lot of people on the island. They've never had this many visitors before. You know, it's just I feel like for such a like high tech secured facility, I felt
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. I mean, you're right. Like you could argue, you know, that there's he feels like that person's classified and like maybe respects her because she actually got the doctor to talk about something other than work. But you're right. That's kind of like you telling him all this information.
but it could also be something that plays in later on because maybe they're so lax that
Maybe it's
that's
because
how
he's the
they make
killer.
something. Yeah. Nishisono is actually Magata. Yeah, that's like the
Right.
her brain is connected. So yeah, that takes us to episode 3, and
Episode 3 is called Red
Magata's
Magic.
yep, and Magata's dead and missing some limbs
Yeah,
too.
and we don't really know where the limbs are, where they came from. Um, so things that stood out about this episode, I thought it was sort of like when Nishisano was like zoned out, and then it was like he kept on asking if she was okay. She's like, just ask me 2 or 3 times, oh, you really care, or whatever,
Oh yeah,
I thought that was
and that was a weird scene too. She kind of like zoned out there for a minute.
right, but
That
also was she playing him? Like it sort of seemed like she was playing
yeah,
him too. Like
and what was weird is when she first zoned out, I thought it was like a weird download thing. I know this is really kind of crazy, but she like something was happening with her brain or some shit. You
maybe she has
know?
some multiple personality disorder.
Well, that was what was so weird is she paused very strangely, and then she popped back, and for a second I thought like her brain was going to get taken over or something. You
Right.
know, I've
Hacked
watched too
somehow.
many.
But yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Tentacles were coming.
yeah,
We watched
yeah.
so
So it
much
was
anime.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. He has tentacles. Yeah.
Of course he has
uh,
tentacles.
so it's interesting. It was a cool scene, and I don't know. That was this show just fucking creeps me out.
Yeah,
This is where it started really creeping me out.
it's yeah. I mean, there's so much to be curious about. It's like I almost want to just like sort of focus on like the little things that stand out because we could probably ramble for like hours
Oh
about
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
all the stuff that's going
Yeah.
on. But yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and so everybody's freaking out. All the assistants and stuff, the researchers, the security guys. There's no. This is the only way in and out.
Right.
That's it. It's a
Everything's
sealed.
coded. Like it's
Yeah, we've got cameras on everything. You know what the fuck? And the first thing I thought of is like maybe it's El Chapo, that Mexican gangster that broke out of the
oh
prison.
right.
Yeah, so that was my other terrible joke. So I was like, oh yeah,
Was
it's
this
El
when they
Chapo.
talk about the program being called Red or something like that?
Yeah. So the name of the episode refers to the
So
was it the
to the program that they use, like the security system
okay
that was
yeah
developed, I'm pretty sure. And I thought that was interesting when is it like say when Sohei like when he first hears red, the immediate thing he was thinking was like the color reference to blood and communism, or like sort of
yeah
like associations of the color red, like the Red Scare. Um,
yeah
so which it gives you a little glimpse into his mind about how he like breaks down things, which I thought was kind of neat. Whether or not it's
Yeah, that was
relevant
very
or
cool.
misleading, I don't know.
It's so cool. And also, this was the episode where I started thinking that Sohei only has one eye, because he's always got his hair. We never see like a full
Oh, right.
face. Which was, now I'm like, I got creeped out, and now I'm like thinking about everything that's
That
standing
means
out.
he's the
So
murderer.
this,
He's really a
yeah.
robot. He's taking
So
over.
my
That's his
my
robot
notes
eye.
in, my notes increased 3 times what they were in the first episode because everything that was like weird I started writing
It's
down.
funny. My notes
Uh,
became less and less probably just 'cause I
oh
was
really?
confused.
I was like, there are no sensors in the room. Like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, what?
Right.
um, and so she's been in there for what, 15 years, something like that. What was that?
Yeah,
What was the
something. I
number?
think that's around.
Yeah. And so someone referred like, oh yeah, the sister gets there. So the director and the sister
Right.
show
They
up.
arrive
That's
on helicopter.
sorry, I had like a bundle of notes and they didn't actually refer to what happened, but it was like dude in room. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
you're
had
starting
to,
to take notes like me.
yeah, I had to unpack that. So the director shows up, the sister shows up, and the sister. Everybody's of course shocked that there's Magata's dead in a wedding dress with her arms chopped off, which would be shocking, generally to everybody.
And then she's purple.
And she's purple, yeah. And so they remark that the younger sister of Magata looks older than Magata, and so I think it's Sohei who makes the crack that you know,
You never
like
go outside, so you don't look. She doesn't
yeah,
age or whatever. Or
solitary.
she's a fucking
Yeah.
computer program.
Or the other thing I was thinking of too is they had that mail slot where they would like put stuff in
Right?
to give her, and they were like, "There's no person who could like fit in there." I was like, "No, there is a person who could fit in there," and it was the dude who ate people's livers in season 1 of the X Files, and he could fucking cram himself into tiny little fucking cracks and steal their livers.
That could be it too.
So episode 3, I was like, "Bam, problem solved,
Right?
mystery done."
Figured it
I was
out.
like,
Mystery case closed. Done.
"Fucking call Mulder, and we're good. Like this is it." No, actually, not it. But and then comes the next big murder scene.
Right. So when they one thing that I thought was weird was like they were trying to talk to him when he was in the fucking helicopter and he had like head shit on and they're like, call the police. There's been a murder. He's like, thumbs up, guys. Yeah, okay. But it's like there's no. It was really strange to me that no one like went towards them, make sure to talk. They just like dropped off or whatever. But
Well, the sister actually had and
yeah,
the sister
she
actually
got
had to
out
get
of the
out,
helicopter. But
and she actually had to talk to them like that. So I didn't think he could actually hear them.
it really didn't seem like he could hear them, but then he gave them like a thumbs up, and I just thought that was weird. I was like, homie has no idea what the fuck is going on. But
Yeah,
doesn't matter because he got fucking knifed in the back of the neck. So
yeah,
that's how that episode ended.
yeah. That was the bombshell there, and the last person to talk to him was Nishi Sono.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun dun
Yeah, but the last
dun.
person who's actually in with him was
Oh, the
was the
sister.
sister.
Yeah, but he was still.
Because I don't think
Don't fuck with me like that, man. Don't fuck with me like
Nishisano,
that.
like I don't think that she actually went in. I think she left with everybody. Like, I don't think. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
but I trust nothing
Right.
anymore. Like it's
The
it's just
helicopter is the murderer.
the murder is actually the knife.
Right? It's
Because
possessed.
that's how
It has
that's how it
tentacles.
yeah, and that's how it fit into the mail slot. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it was in like a
That's how
cake or
the
something.
arms got cut off.
Yeah,
And it drank all of the blood, so that's why there was no blood.
it's a self-conscious it's a knife that just floats around and like kills people.
Right.
It's the perfect murder because nobody would suspect it. It's got like a chip inside that's like a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so the after the director is murdered and everybody discovers the body, we also get the creepiest scene in the series so far, which is where we end the episode, which is in the was it the carousel? Is that what they call those things?
Oh, yeah, I think it was a carousel.
Is it a carousel? So Magata and her uncle are in it, and yeah, they hook up.
Yeah, she lies down on his lap
Yeah.
and
Uh,
and then pulls him down towards her.
Yeah,
She's
that was.
13. He's married. Her own. I mean, yeah.
I mean, take your pick. Like which.
Right. Like, very
Yeah.
creepy on a lot of different levels. But don't worry, there's creepier scenes.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
So,
And actually,
mhm.
oh
I
yeah,
was just thinking on episode 4, or is there anything you want to talk about more on episode 3?
yeah. The last note for especially for that last scene in the carousel. Uh, the uncle's character now is starting to remind me just, and this could just completely be projection, but the main
Of
character of,
myself. What?
oh yeah, yeah, of me. It's like, oh god, it's like I'll just turn myself in now.
Right.
It reminded me of the main character of Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita.
Never saw it.
Um,
Or, like, there's a
yeah,
movie, right? Also.
yeah, I've never seen the movie, but I read the book a couple years
Yeah.
ago, and just the way it's very analytically written. You know what I mean? And so the main character obviously has these like perverted fits of passion or whatever, but the way that his character is represented is he's very intelligent and he's very analytical. You know what I mean? And it's not just this like raving pedophile. You know what I mean? It's not just this like kind of slobbering monster. And so the uncle's character start. This is just what again. It could be just projection, but I thought it was just a very interesting character because the uncle is obviously very smart
Right.
and he knows what he's doing, and he's just completely
He's still captivated.
he's completely captivated, completely trapped. And I don't know. That was just what. That's just something you don't usually see. I don't know. That's just not a reference that I usually get reminded of.
Yeah, there's like,
So,
what was the thing that was it the guy from Sex at Dawn or whatever who talked about how like men will get imprinted like sexual like things or desires at like a young age or something like that, or
oh yeah, Chris Ryan,
Chris
like
Ryan?
that you'll like see like a color or like something at a young age that will imprint on you.
Right, or
Yeah.
like a young girl or whatever, or some sort of like abuse happens at a young age, and like that sort of stuff can get like imprinted on people. It's an interesting thing. I
Well,
don't really. I mean, I'm not a
I mean,
doctor. I don't know this sort of stuff.
but yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating theory because you get these, or men get these, imprints placed on them, and it does kind of explain some of the stranger eccentricities that can pop up. Uh,
Isn't there like a thing where like there's guys that are like totally straight, but like
oh yeah, they'll like fuck their dude friends.
right or what? Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
but they're straight. Yeah, but they're like,
And
yeah.
there's actually things like, but yeah, but they really are straight. It's just that they have this like weird imprinted like sexual desire. I don't know how it all works out.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's an interesting point because this show obviously is that complicated. I mean, obviously it's getting into territory that's quite loaded and also nuanced.
Right.
And I think what is interesting about that theory is that it's people aren't just ever one thing. And that's I think goes for anything, but especially for like sexual stuff. It's this spectrum where you can
God,
have
saying that like makes you think of some like you'd say like with the main chick character how she sort of seems like a very spoiled whatever. Perhaps she's also like ridiculously smart. You could say that about the not always one thing. You could say that about the doctor at a young age, how she has multiple different personalities. You can say that about the uncle with how he's married, but then like lying. Wow, that I think that like statement in its own really brings in like all of these characters in this show that people.
yeah, that kind of does bombshell it, doesn't
Yeah,
it? That does yeah, because that's kind of a reoccurring theme.
yeah, in a lot of different ways.
Huh.
Boom, drop the mic.
Shit.
You're like that's just like by accident.
That was fucking by accident. That was not.
Um,
Interesting. Okay, so we're in episode 4.
yeah.
Because I don't know how to follow that up other than like, oh, episode over. Let's just see you all in part 2.
Where they
Bam.
so this is when they discovered that there's a robot in the room.
Oh yeah,
He's obviously killed the doctor, or the doctor is imprinted in the robot, but the robot is named after one of her multiple personalities, right?
yeah. And all her personalities were based off of
Siblings?
dead people, like dead family members. So
Like
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. So episode 4 is called The Rainbow Colored Past.
Mm-hmm.
It means something.
Right. Rainbows killed her.
So yeah, the robot was interesting because it could lock the door. Wait. What was it? It could open the
But
door,
it
but it
couldn't lock
couldn't.
it.
No, it could unlock it, but it couldn't open the door.
Or something like that.
Yeah, it was weird. The like the device, the mechanism that it had, and like you could see the work area where she built it, but also everything was spotless, perfectly clean.
Right.
So which of course the assumption is that since she had limbs detached, that there was going to be this like horrible mess.
Yeah, but everything was completely spotless.
And they have a trash compactor, right? It's like a or like there was a trash chute.
Yeah, but it was like super small.
But she had sharp knives. So
Yeah.
someone did some cleaning.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hard to
The
vacuum it out.
fucking the trash compactor killed her.
Yeah, it was the knife.
The knife did it
Uh, um, so obviously we know Magata is fucked up because she has Legos. That's just that right there is a
Wasn't it like a weird like giant doll thing too? Like a stuff.
yeah, fucking creepy bears.
God.
Yeah.
Bruh.
I mean, you look at that and you're like, oh yeah, here's the staples of a crazy person. We've got crazy stuffed
Maybe
animal
she's hiding inside the bear.
inside the bears. That yeah. Well, so at this point, I'm just
It's
like,
funny because I'm only half joking.
yeah, yeah, no, really, like.
Who the fuck knows?
So by this episode, I was thoroughly like, I
Your
was
episode's
thoroughly
got
creeped
known. I
out.
was just like, fuck
Yeah,
it, I don't know.
and the I think we talked a little bit about it yesterday when we talked, and the way I was describing it was, the show I watched because I was very interested, and while I was watching, I was like, oh wow, this is weird, what the fuck, and then afterward, after I thought about it, the more I thought about it, the more freaked out I
Yeah.
got. Yeah,
And this has
and
the
the
same.
more creeped, yeah.
It's all you,
So
man. Talk.
well, like the more I think about it, the more fucked up I get. You know what I
Right,
mean?
you're,
'Cause it's
you're, like,
like,
you're like, I don't even want to talk about it, man.
yeah, because like when I saw the bears and the Legos and the room, like I remember being kind of disappointed, being like, "What? It's really fucking clean." I really wanted some crazy shit. But now that I think about it and have to talk about
It's
it, I'm like
like the
scared
bears
shit.
like freak me out now. Like giant stuffed bears like freak me
I
out
know.
now.
I'm like, what the fuck? What is going on? So the big portion of this episode is just kind of that shock of the room being completely because really it's completely different than what we were expecting it to look.
Right.
And so the story is already playing with our expectations in that line of work. But what's also interesting is we get this look into her personal life that we haven't had before. And I think that's what makes it so scary. Is you see this like pristine environment
And that's how she was like living.
for 15 years.
Right, but then she also had like little things like the stuffed animals and the Legos to sort of symbolize her childhood. But then I don't.
Yeah.
I wonder if she like made the robot to play with those things because I don't. She doesn't seem like that's something she would do. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Yeah. And so what's interesting is the computer system has an OS that's three versions ahead of what the rest of the facility.
right. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. And then the flip side of that is on the computer are notes written by Magata and then all of her personalities
Right.
to, I guess, whoever finds the computer. So it's informing them that you won't find anything on here that's going to let you know what happened or something like that.
So it was like a suicide. I don't know, man.
That was creepy as fuck. I was like, what the fuck? Because at first I thought the notes, I was like, why are they different? And then when they were like, oh, it's her personalities, I was like, oh, fuck me.
Dude, I mean,
Never.
I feel like she's the sort of character, like personality side, that's like that is so intellectual that she detaches herself from her physical body, and tries to like one of those. You know how they talk about like uploading your consciousness and then downloading it in order to like become immortal and all that jazz. Like I feel like Homegirl would pioneer that shit, you know?
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah. And that, wasn't there a line, yeah, actually there's a line in the 5th episode, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but that the pure state of humanity is that multiple personality state. And Sohei argues that that's how we all start as children.
Hmm.
As we all start with multiple voices, and then we're kind of told to
Identify
solidify
villain.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I would
solidify.
check out the author of this and make sure that they're not the crazy person.
It's like, is he cool?
Right.
I mean, we know he likes model trains. Crazy people like model trains. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and then yeah, I was really fucking creeped out by this point. So the interesting thing that jumped out to me was that with the uncle, and this could just be I wasn't paying close enough attention to the character designs, so this may not be the case. Was the director of the facility her uncle, or
Yes.
am I just
Yeah,
okay?
I believe so.
So that was because I don't think it was clearly stated until like I finally saw the character designs and was like, "What is this the same fucking person?" Was I crazy, or is that
Well,
actually the
yeah,
case?
and which would make sense if that was an establishment that she developed. It wouldn't make sense if that was a prison that she was being kept at.
Yeah. So like he knew what she could do and was like, "Yo, we need to keep it on the DL."
I don't know. He's still alive and he's the murderer.
Yeah. So he got killed, and then from the end of episode 4 we learned that her parents died a year after she hooked up with her guardian because we get the creepy scenes of them in the hotel room,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, this was the one that I think, really impacted you that I want to hear you talk about.
This fucking scene fucked me up. This was a fucked up scene. And the more I think about this scene, the more freaked out it makes me. So they're in the hotel room. They've like obviously gotten it on. She's taking a shower and he's sipping some drink. Some drink?
Right.
This is
Also
how
known as
irrational
drank.
I make drink. Yeah.
Is,
So
is that your note though? Like, are you reading like your note and was like sipping some drink,
yeah, I'm actually reading my notes and then I just
and then
uh,
like, God, I'm shitty at fucking taking
so
notes.
I know. Yeah, it's like, oh, there goes all my grammar. So he has he's just kind of relaxing, having a beverage of choice, and she's talking to herself. So she has two personalities by this point. I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
So now even talking about it freaks the shit out of me. But when it's what was it when she's talking, it's a shot of her in the bathroom.
Right.
And then when it's her other personality, it's a shot from the outside of the a creepy fucking shot of the door to the bathroom.
Right. And the guy, right?
And the guy,
Like
and he's just
this.
listening to this go
Right.
on. And she's like nervous that she like, wasn't, what was it, like she didn't
Like
do well enough or something? Like she was
I mean, talking
self-conscious.
about having sex, right?
Yeah, yeah, she was self-conscious that she didn't know what she was doing or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
but she's like reassuring herself that she did fine. This conversation is creepy as fuck. This absolutely takes my reward, my like award of like creepiest fucking anime scene for. I guess the show completely aired in 2015, so I'm just going to say 2015
Right.
because I can't remember the last time I was that uncomfortable
Yeah, it was intense.
watching
It was
the show.
super intense.
And then to its credit, after watching it, like, because I talked to you about this last night
Right.
when we were playing Diablo, and I was just like fucking myself up over it. I was like, "What? This is fucked up."
It was one of those things that you watch and you're okay, but then when you think about it later,
And then you think, yeah, you think about it, and
you
like,
like lie down and you're like, oh, how much this
yeah,
anime? It's like,
yeah. And so often with anime, and so often with most shows, they rely on showing you something fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, someone gets crucified and split apart, and you
right,
know what I
it's a
mean?
lot
Like,
of violence.
yeah, and so that's what I was geared for with the show, and I think because I was so geared for that there was going to be something visually like graphic, that when they did this scene, it just freaked me out more because of all the implications that this had, and just the way it was shot, the way it was animated. I mean, just fuck, man. This
Shit, man, shit.
yeah, shit, man, shit. Exactly. Yeah, and then I have a note here for body bags, but I don't even fucking remember what that was. Oh, that's what it was. There's the Nishisono is fucking chilling out and late,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how much time's going by, and she's like, "Nah, it's cool. I'm gonna hang out here for a while longer." And she has this fucking vision with like water, and there's all these body bags, and she opens one and like doesn't it's Magata's face, isn't it? I was so freaked out by this point that all I have here is body bags, and I
Oh,
can't
she was
fucking.
like dreaming, or like in like a weird, I thought she
Yeah,
was like in a dream state or something like that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I just sort of
It was,
dismissed that. It was too.
well, I was already freaked out over the previous scene, so like I've just like apparently lost my ability to read. So anyway, that takes us to episode 5.
Silver Hope.
So where were you at the start of episode 5 emotionally? Where were you at?
Um, really comfortable in my bed, like sort of snuggled up,
I
just
was warm.
yeah, just like what's going on, but I wasn't like emotionally distraught in any way. I was just sort of like God, I have no idea what the fuck's going on. The thing that tripped me out, like in episode 5, I'm sure that was your lead to be like how you were in your emotional state, but you hold on a
No,
second.
actually, because I just vented.
Oh,
So
okay. Oh, it's just like, but so what happened with me with episode 5 was finding out that she had like a brother that died or something like that, and
oh
the way
yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
said this was so weird to me because it was like I'm not sure if it was like a person, like a real person, like a real brother, or if it was like a personality brother, like
Yeah, and usually these sorts of reveals are done with a lot more gusto, right? So like even the reveal that she had a sister, got a little bit of screen time. We got a little bit of dialogue about it. This fucking reveal is like just dropped.
right.
It's
It was like
just
a side conversation. It was like
yeah,
talking about it's like here you want some cookies? I made some extra cookies, and oh yeah, she had a brother.
yeah. Oh, by the way, all of her personalities are derived from her dead family members.
Are they
That's this
like?
episode too.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that was weird.
I mean, the main thing is like I had like 3 lines of notes on this episode just because it's it's just also sort of like overwhelming to me or whatever. Um, but one thing that really stood out to me was the was when she this was like sort of towards the end of the episode, but it had the doctor go into the town like getting a knife, and she's like in this like nice little like sundress or whatever, super cute. She gets this knife, then they go to have dinner with her family, and then her gift to her uncle is uh is that knife, and in reference of cutting away the strings and stuff like that that bind him
Oh yeah, that
to
was
being
fucked up.
unhappy. And also, it looks exactly like the same knife that's found when he gets stabbed in the helicopter.
Yep.
So that's my big of this
Yeah, and
episode.
that was the cliffhanger too.
Right,
So that was of course because he opens up the package and like looks at her and she's like, mm-hmm. Yeah, she gives him this look
right.
that's like, oh,
Like
oh
I
fuck.
know. And then so I don't think we even mentioned this, but she said that like a doll killed her parents
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that she watched. So I'm wondering if the uncle was the doll.
Yeah, that's yeah. Before when we were talking about episode 1, yeah, that was the other thing that I was thinking about that I didn't want to bring up. Then is yeah, that's a great point, and then also the in this episode too, the wife discusses is asked by Nishi Sono what happened, and I think she's doesn't she say that like they came in and they saw the director telling her to stop or something like that, and so that's why they.
Yeah, it was really weird.
But again, it's all fuckery because we never actually we haven't yet gotten a scene that shows us that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And there's so many.
So
No, no, no.
yeah.
I thought like it was they came in and the director was like holding her or something.
Oh yeah, or something like that. Yeah, and her like she had like they were all stabbed, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and actually on that, the director's wife just didn't seem very upset. You know what I mean? For like the way her husband died and like what's been going on.
Right. And it's like is
She
it
like
shock?
seemed
Is it plant? Like
yeah, and she
what
was
the
she
hell's
made them.
going on?
Yeah, she made them food and stuff like that,
Right.
which almost made me think she knew like that there was fuckery afoot between Magata and the director. You know what I mean? And that so she was almost like, oh, they're both dead, sweet.
Right.
Which is almost like, well, did she kill him? Like, was that Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why is she so chill with this? Like, her husband was fucking stabbed in the back of the head with a hunting
I don't
knife
know,
in
man.
a
I don't
helicopter.
know,
And
man.
there's a fucking girl with no limbs in a wedding dress and purple and just hanging out on this fucking beer thing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's messed up. You know, that's some, like, we have a problem shit, you know?
Yeah.
So she seemed a little too chill. I was like, okay, that's weird. And then also we get this thing where I think it was they go back to the conversation between Magata and Nishisono in the video room, and it's she's asked if she was wearing purple when her parents died. That was the other big
Right.
thing.
And she's also saying that she was with somebody,
Yeah,
but she wasn't with someone. She said, no, I wasn't with anyone. I was alone. But
and we get this quick shot of like you were saying before of the airport shot where she's in the
right,
airport
right, right,
running.
right.
It's a really quick shot. So fuck, this was the point where I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have enough to like. If we only do one episode on this, I was like, what? I need to know what happens, and I need to talk about it because this is like this has gotten to be too much. Um, so the boat's coming. That's the other reveal is that the boat's on its way, and we'll get there. The like what later that afternoon, the next day, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and God, I'm like looking at my notes. This is where I was wondering, like, so they eat food. They have the thing where Nishisono, the drink is too hot again and stuff like that. And it seems like the only food they have is like jelly toast. That's it.
Right.
Which would obviously be why everybody's so fucked because they're only eating toast all the time. That can't be.
I mean, like, is your brain really getting enough nutrients?
Yeah, really. They don't have a cafeteria. Like what? Like what? What's up with this? Anyway,
Maybe it's because
also,
P1 delivered all their food. So since
yeah,
P1's busy carrying the body of its like master,
all
um,
the all the burgers are actually on the cart. They're below the dead girl. It's
right,
like they're like, I don't want a dead burger.
right.
You know. And this is also the point where I was like, what the fuck happened to the other students? Do they think that Nishisona and Sohei are just in a bush
I'm not even sure
somewhere?
if
You
they
know what I mean?
fucking matter anymore. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It,
which is one complaint. We just totally dropped them, right? Like they're just
that's
gone.
true. But also, is this just like the first night too?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first night, but still, isn't he supposed to be overseeing all these college kids?
I don't know,
Like,
man.
was there no other, like, and also clearly Nishisono's whole plan of being like, ooh, I'm talking to this person that you like. Ooh, I'm gonna like bring us here and tease you with it. That clearly fucking worked out.
Right. And
And then
now we're
actually on that,
locked.
yeah, and then now we have the argument between Nishisono and Sohei. Which is where Sohei maintains that a pure state of humanity is having different personalities and the interaction and creativity, I guess.
Wait, did he state that, or was that something that the doctor like?
No, I think he stated that,
Huh.
and he talks about how he what was it that he likes someone like basically he likes someone who thinks outside of the box or something like that. What was that? That doesn't
I think I'm too busy
because
drawing on myself at this point.
yeah, because there's this also recurring theme of freedom, right?
Hmm.
So he says to Nishisono that he doesn't want to. He's considering not being a teacher anymore, of just leaving. And she's telling him, well, like, why don't you just leave and I'll support you? Like, I'll make sure you have a place where you can do all of your writing and research. Nobody will bother you. And then he says to her, like, well, no, I couldn't do that because I'd be entrapping you because you would be forced to be in this situation.
Right.
She's like, no, I want to do this. And then he talks about how Nagata was like truly free or something like that. Isn't that what he says? I don't have a note for it here.
I,
I could be fucking wrong with that. But anyway, it's an interesting conversation. And it ends up with Nishisono getting really mad at Sohei. And she like almost hits him. And then she walks off.
yeah, I
And
totally don't remember any of this.
yeah, yeah. And the thing here is I noticed this is where I started noticing that the lights in the hallway turn on when someone's moving
I didn't
and
notice
turn
that
off
either.
when there's nobody moving. And you know what's fucked up about that?
Hmm.
There's a scene. I think it's an episode. I think it's earlier. I think it might be in 3 or 4. It's one of the shots of Magata's body
Right.
on the cart. The lights are on just in her section.
So yeah, so we're gonna finish the series. We have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that also could. Again, it's one of these things where did I just fucking imagine that? Am I just thinking too hard about it?
Right.
Like, am I just like way too deep into this?
No.
But so that's why I really feel like we had to watch the whole thing because I can't. I honestly can't say I could recommend it to someone at this point without seeing the rest of it because I just
It has a real captivating first 5 episodes, but it's the sort of thing that could just like end terribly.
yeah, it could just totally go to dog
Yeah.
shit. And I feel like we're right at the end of episode 5. I feel like we're right at the verge of discovering some big shit and like moving into like the final act, more or less. Um, but I mean, I think if you watch the first 5 episodes and like us, I think it'll be just very clear whether or not this show pulls you in. Because I could also see people just being straight up bored. I mean, if they're just not interested in the concepts, there's not any action. You know,
Right.
I mean, I can see people not enjoying it, but I don't know. I'm fucking entrenched, and really, a big part of my anxiety with the show right now is like, is this going to give me nothing? Is this just going to like,
Right. Is it gonna end in a question? Is it gonna wrap stuff up? Is it gonna wrap stuff up in a bullshit way? Like when you have
yeah,
this sort of like these sort of series, it's really hard. Just depending on how the ending is. It could be
yeah,
great. It could be fucking
yeah,
terrible. You know.
yeah. So we'll find out and tune in to the next episode of Two Dimensional
Yeah,
Champions to
buddy.
see what happens. So continue onward to part 2 of the Perfect Insider, and I guess we'll have that up later this week.
Yep.
All right, thanks for listening.
Take care.